Okay, with this question, calcium sulfide reacts with calcium sulfate as shown. I've written the equation underneath because I've pre-read the question and I just want to show you, make sure that you know how to work out limiting reagent. So what we're told here is 2.5 grams of calcium sulfide is heated with 9.85 grams of calcium sulfate until there is no further reaction. Show that the calcium sulfate is the limiting reagent. So we're told here that this is the limiting reagent. What that means is that runs out first. And because that runs out first, that's when the reaction stops. Okay, so we'll do that bit first and then we'll deal with what I'll call part B afterwards. And we've got the MRs here, which is going to make the calculation a little bit easier. We need to work out the number of moles of each of these. So the number of moles of this is 2.5 divided by 72.2, which gives me 0.0346 moles. And over here with the calcium sulfate, I've got 9.85 divided by 136.2, which gives me, again, number of moles down here is equal to 0.0723. It kind of doesn't matter which way you go when you're working these out, and I'll try and show you what I mean. Okay. Now, there's a ratio here of 1, because obviously we have no number means 1 to 3. So if I'm going this way, what I need to do to this value here is times it by 3. And if I times that by 3, so 0.0346 times 3 equals, so that gives me 0.1038. So 0.1038 is greater than the 0.0723, which makes this the limiting reagent. Okay, so what this is telling me, the timesing it by 3, maybe not put it there, the timesing it by 3 means that 0.1038 moles of this will react with 0.0723, and basically I haven't got anywhere near 0.1038 here. Okay, so if I go back the other way, and I'll do this one in red, so if I go back this way, it's a 3-to-1 ratio, so I'd now need to divide by 3. So if I divide this by 3, so 0.0723 divided by 3 equals 0.0241. So I'm comparing this number with that number, and again you can see that this is the smallest amount, which means this will be my limiting reagent. So when you're comparing these numbers, you're always comparing what you've times by 3 with the other one, or divide by 3 with the original one. So just to kind of put this in perspective, I'm comparing that one with that value there. Okay, this is my limiting reagent because it is a smaller amount. But if I was to do it using a green, I'd be comparing that number here with this number there. And again, this is the smallest number, so that is my limiting reagent. Whichever way you do it, this is the limiting reagent. This is the one that is going to run out first. I haven't got enough of that, which means I'll have calcium sulfate left over. So I'm going to clear all this now, because now I've worked out what my limiting reagent is. So show that the calcium sulfate is the limiting reagent. So you work out the number of moles of one, you work out the number of moles of the other, you use a ratio just to show, and it doesn't really matter which way you go to use that ratio, just to show that one is the limiting reagent. Okay, so let me just go back and I'll simplify this, make it a little bit clearer. Go back to blue. So I'm showing that this is the limiting reagent. So what I'm going to do here is I'll go that way, divide that by 3. So 0.0241 moles of this is required, and I've got more than I need. Okay. Again, I'll go the other way, and I'll keep going over this, but you'll be surprised how many people just really do struggle with this. So if I go the other way, so this bit here, I'm now timesing it by 3. So 0.0346 times 3. So 0.0346 of calcium sulfide requires 0.1038 of calcium sulfate. And you can see here, I haven't got enough. Okay. So 1 mark for calculating the number of moles of CaS, 1 mark for calculating the moles of CaSO4, and then 1 mark for justifying the limiting reagent. So either, I think in this one it's probably easier to times it by 3. Okay, so now I know that this one is my limiting reagent. My calculation hinges around this one. So I'm going to look at part B now, which I've kind of put here. So part B, calculate the mass of sulfur dioxide. So that is this bit here. This is my limiting reagent. So I'm looking at a ratio of 3 to 4. So using my kind of green moles here. So again, just to kind of put that on here, 3 to 4. So as I go from here to here, you divide by where you start and multiply by where you're going. So divide by 3 times by 4. So number of moles of SO2 is equal to 0.0723 divided by 3 times 4, which equals 0.0964. Now I must calculate the mass. So mass is number of moles, 0.0964, multiplied by the MR, and the MR is 64.1, which gives me 6.18 grams. So 1 mark for that, 1 mark for this, 1 mark for explaining that calcium sulfate is the limiting reagent. 1 mark for this, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 mark for that. That's multiplying by the MR, the correct MR.